Text things that we find important.
Yes.
That system also keeps us safe.
Yes.
And back in the day, we used to use that system for the lions and, all the danger.
Fight or flight.
Right. But now, we use that system for what can happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All the things that are not here, but just all the things that the mind just gets going.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel like we can use that system to better ourselves? Because we know that it exists. Everybody's been in that situation. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, I just realized it. Yeah, that does happen.
Mm-hmm.
What is something that we can put our attention on? What is a way to use the mind to start going in the direction of the divine?
I'm going to take a step back, but stay on the question. Because everything you hit on something that's related to why we do that. And that is our system of values. The reason I will buy the Air Jordans instead of paying for my child's daycare is because I value the way I look in public above and beyond my child's best interests or their education. You see, so we have to change people's values because your spending habits are a function of your values. If black people created a whole new different set of values where we valued each other's well-being above and beyond how any of us look individually, then that change of values would dictate a new set of economic behavior. Our values are tied up into money being spent to make us look better. And this goes back to slavery too, because when we first came out of slavery, we never were accepted as American. Black people know that unconsciously, even though we like to deny it publicly. What's the best way for me to experience America, even though I've been denied the rights of an American? And it is to buy as much junk that America creates and surround me and my family with it to give the impression that I am living the American dream when I'm not. That's why we got to have on the Jordans. That's why I got to have a Maybach. That's why I got to drive a Mercedes that I can hardly afford. Why? Because when people do not experience true freedom, they like to surround themselves with the symbols of it. Black people buy more Mercedes Benzes than white folk. Explain to me why. A people who have 1/3 of the wealth. So you got two groups, one black, one white. The black group has 1/3 or less of the wealth of the white group, but they're buying twice as many Mercedes as the white group. How when you have less capital and less wealth? Because having that Mercedes makes me feel better. It makes me look better. It fills me with pride. That's why a young black man will kill another brother over a pair of Jordans. It ain't because of the Jordans. It's the way the Jordans make me feel. And it's the way the Jordans will make other people look at me. I get respect by adding value to myself vicariously with these expensive items.
And that's because we are not who we think we are. And we are not who, like for instance, I am not who I think I am. And I am not who you think I am. I am who I think you think I am. Right? So back to the question. How can we use that system in our head that will look for different things, right? To look for opportunities.
I don't know if we do that on the individual level. I think we do that on a systemic community level. I think so much of the change that must come, although it has an individual component, I think it needs to be done on a group level. In other words, a whole generation of black children need to be taught how to think differently. A whole generation of black children need to be taught how to work interdependently and collectively. A whole generation of black children need to be taught how to value material things less and value living people more. I don't think we get there individually. We can start there, but things have to be done systematically. That's where we're losing because we don't do anything systematically. Sir might make the change. Dr. Umar might make the change. But how do we get this change to manifest on a community-wide level? That's where we're losing.
I feel like the way we get the change worldwide, globally, is through us. It starts with us.
It does, but it starts with us creating a system whereby we can socialize the next generation of black children to think a certain way. What is the number one function of a school? It's not to teach. The number one function of the school is to socialize. It's to teach the children how to think and act in unison for the best interests of the American social order. You follow? So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm simply saying that we have to use the individual power to create a collective system. Otherwise, we get nowhere. You have to change a generation. It only takes one generation. All the problems we've had for 400 years, you can change them in 20 years. If we made up our minds that the babies that are being born in Philadelphia right now will be raised a certain way, fed a certain way, taught to worship a certain way, to spend a certain way, we give them a whole new set of values in 20 years, you would have a new black Philadelphia. It only takes a generation. The problem is we don't raise the new babies any different than we
think.
Because of the way we think.
Okay, so here's my thing. So forget racism. Forget everything. Just forget.
Which you can't really forget it, but go ahead.
Okay. Forget all of the external things. Because right now, we realize that the problem is the way that we think. Okay? And people don't know that there's different ways of thinking. People don't understand that thoughts attract thoughts like it. Right? So what is the first step to taking control of your thinking?
Okay. As I said earlier, with a child, we want to be careful of what goes into the mind. With the adult, it's no differently. We think because we're older, I can subject myself to that negative music and it not affect me. I can watch those negative films and it not affect me. I can sit around and hear negative conversation and it not affect me. Anything planted in the mind must and will bring forth. So the first thing we have to do is tap into the maturity and consciousness of knowing that even as adults, we have to guard our mind. So that means I have to stop watching this. I got to stop looking at this. I got to stop listening to this. Guard your mind.
Now, why? Because it will manifest.
Oh, it will manifest.
Okay. So if it will manifest, we also have to be careful of the words we choose when expressing ourselves.
Oh, we do.
Do you think your message, when you talk about the groups or the ideas that you don't agree with, change the way that... Do you think that the things you say out of your mouth manifest the world that you're in? Because I feel like we are all on the same planet, but we're not in the same world. And to me, what I realized is that we have to stop allowing the external world to dictate how we feel internally.
Okay.
So for me, the first thing that I did was take over inside, saying, hey, no matter what I see, no matter what I hear, like no matter what, I cannot let it in. I have to analyze. I have to make sure I'm letting positive things in.
And I agree with that, but we can't negate the village because as human beings, we are essentially a group-oriented people. And because we are essentially a group-oriented people, although we must do work on the individual self, we must keep a balance between self and other, particularly African people, because we are a we people. So yes, you must do that individual internal work, but then you also have to be a part of the village too. So we have to make sure we maintain that balance between self, I, and the village we. So that's not a disagreement. It's just an add-on. We got to make sure that that balance is there.
What is the most dangerous thing in the world to you?
Ignorance. Because I believe from ignorance comes every other evil.
Now,
ignorance can be fear. It can be a lack of knowledge.
A lack of knowledge.
Evil.
The thing that I say.
Greed is ignorance.
Right.
Because you got to know that you don't need anything else to be happy.
Yes.
And the problem with us, we've been struggling so long that it takes us to get rich to realize being rich is not what I needed and it's not going to solve my problems.
For me, the most dangerous thing, and I think this is just a piggyback to you, is not knowing when you don't know.
It is the wisest of persons to know that they don't know.
Right. So
and it is also the wisest of persons to know that you don't want to know everything. You follow what I'm saying? I don't want to know how good it feels to get high on crack. I don't want to know that. You follow what I'm saying? I don't want to know how good it is to smoke weed all day long. I'm not going, because I recognize there's consequences that's going to come of me learning that, which could include me being addicted. You know what I mean? I don't want to know what it feels like to get knocked out in a 12-round fight. I don't want to know what it feels like to get shot. So then part of knowledge is knowing that some things are best left unknown. You understand? I don't want to know what the demonologist church, what they study and how they worship. That's knowledge I don't want.
Got it.
You see, part of knowledge is knowing you don't need to know everything. That's why God is the only all-knowing being.
Got it. For me, this is a piggyback on you. I believe that the most dangerous thing is not knowing when you don't know. And the way that I test this out when I'm out and about is I say, is the world round or flat? And the moment that you give me an answer, I say, it's dangerous that you don't know when you don't know. And I think that the most important thing to remember is that the most important thing is the most important thing. Meaning that for me, I had to understand that there is a difference between what I know from experience and what I know from what I've been taught.
Okay.
There's a huge difference.
3 ways to get knowledge.
Right.
Study,
There's a huge
experience, and intuition.
Right. Okay. Got you. Perfect. So, for instance, when I was growing up, I thought the police were here to serve and protect. They used to be on the cars. It's not on the cars anymore. Right. Then I realized, oh, you know, this is what's going on. Right. To know when you don't know, for me, is the perfect way to start taking control of your thinking. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm about to wrap this up real quick. I got a couple questions from the viewers.
Sure.
Okay. First, what is the biggest demise of our youth right now?
It's greed, conspicuous consumption, materialism. And I would add with that, we live in a culture where getting attention is the most important thing for our youth, and it's dangerous. You know, the Facebook lives, the selfies, it's all about being seen 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When I was growing up, video games were the great distractor. I never thought that anything would be invented that could challenge the video game for the amount of time that we wasted playing it. Right? I intentionally stayed away from video games because I didn't want to become an addict, so I never got into video games. I said nothing will ever replace video games, but social network has. And so as a certified school psychologist, I'm bothered, obviously, because I work at a job where black boys are being referred every day for reading disabilities that they don't have because they're not practicing. It appears that they do have these reading problems and that they do need special ed, when the truth of the matter is those 10 hours he's spending on social network a day, those at least 3 of those could have been spent reinforcing his academics, but they're not. Social network is the biggest time waster in American history.
Being distracted from what?
Being distracted from self-development as it relates to our youth, being distracted from developing social skills that we need, especially black folks, because we don't know how to get along, okay? Being distracted from practicing your academics so that you can be an elite student, so you can qualify for the scholarships and other opportunities that are out there. Also being distracted from your time that should be spent on spiritual development, the worship, the praying, the fasting, the study, being distracted from working on your life's work, finding out who you are, spending time with your family, charity to the community. I mean, there's so many things that we and young people should be engaged in, but I see too many people's lives have been reduced to going to work, having a cell phone, and getting on social network. I mean, literally, this social network, I'm almost certain that when the next DSM comes out, it's going to be listed as an addiction. I'm almost certain. Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. That's the Bible where all the diagnoses are. So we're at DSM-5 now, which has been out for maybe 2 years. They put them out once every 10 years or so.
So basically, the distraction is being distracted from being aligned.
Without question.
Okay.
And as black people, we can't afford to waste that much time on a distraction.
What is attention?
Attention, I'm going to say concentration, which is attention in its strictest form. Concentration is the ability to focus and attend to one thing to the exclusion of everything else until that thing has been completed. We lack concentration as a people. We are easily distracted. We spend the most time on social network. We spend the most time on the internet, and we spend the most time watching television. Black America. We are not focused.
When we come back, we got more. I got a question that is hilarious about Hot Girl Summer. What does Dr. Umar think about Hot Girl Summer? That is the next question. It's boom. What? Now, you do know what hot girl summer is, right?
I think I do, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I actually want to make sure
for real.
that I know what it is. Okay. So, let me get... Hey, can somebody call up? No, all right. So I'm going to get somebody on the phone to explain what hot girl summer is.
Okay.
It is the trend... Oh, no. What the fuck? Sorry.
But it's not.
Hold on.